You'll see this when you need it. I feel that you and I are both struggling with something that's very similar. It's this concept of what does it mean to be enough? Whether that's for yourself, for your family, for your friends. What does that 6-letter word mean, and why does it have so much power over people's lives? My whole entire life, and I'm 19 for context, has just been this constant struggle of what does it mean to be enough. When I came into school with Portuguese being my first language, what did it mean to be enough in that school? Oh, let me pick up English, right? And really be as fluent as possible in English. And I thought that when I became eventually super articulate in the language, that then I would be enough. And the way that I see enough now is this ever-moving finish line that you'll never reach. Because enough isn't in the eye of the other, but rather in the eye of the beholder, because you won't ultimately define what enough is for you. I was raised by immigrants, and there was always this standard that I would either become a doctor or I'd become a lawyer or whatever it was. And I would often watch my brother, and he's super big inspiration. I love my brother to death. And he graduated from high school with like a 4.7, went on to Cal Berkeley, and full ride scholarship and everything. And for a long time, that was my perception of what it meant to be enough, is that I had to do those things as well. And eventually I get to the point where I'm in high school, and I didn't cut it. I did well in high school, but I didn't do 4.7 well. And so who was I then? And I believe we ask ourselves that a lot. Who am I? If I can't achieve these goals that society sets on me or that my family sets on me, who am I? And what value do I have? But I don't think that value really defines who we are as people. I think rather what defines us as people is how we envision enough to ourselves. Do we look in the mirror and say, I'm enough for myself? Or do we leave the concept of enough to other people? And it was always a struggle for me. And I believe that once you and I, and I'm still going through this, once you and I realize that enough, that the 6-letter word being enough has really no value, that's when we become free. That's when we become people, instead of becoming results of a word. Because that's what I've always seen enough as. It's just this ever-looming ghost that just kind of sits there with you and says, you're either enough or you're not. But enough for who and enough for what? Who am I enough for? Because ultimately, if you're enough for yourself, that's all that matters. Because you will move as if you have value to yourself. If you tell yourself that you're enough, the value you put behind enough then gets translated into you. There's this really cool concept in Buddhism, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it relates to the transfer of energy, and really the transfer of negative energy. I heard someone talking about this, but there's this concept that we receive what we're sent, and then we can also choose to receive what we get. And it was really interesting watching this guy explain it, because when it came to negativity, if someone chooses to send you negative energy, or let's say you send yourself negative energy, and no one receives it, that negative energy then belongs to the user, right? If I give you a gift and you choose not to receive it, it is my gift now. And so I like to think of enough that way. If enough tries to send me a negative gift, or enough tries to tell me that I'm not worth it, what I have to do to myself is choose not to accept that, and to say, I don't want it. Because then that negativity doesn't go to me, it stays within that word, and then I have power over the word. We are often taught that we should be defined by either verbs or adjectives or whatever it is, and we get taught it very young. I am kind, I am this, I am that. But we don't get taught how to use it. We get taught to use it to describe things, but maybe not emotions, and maybe not ourselves, right? When in school have you ever heard, I am enough? I never heard it. I didn't hear it when I tried to be perfect on the football team. I didn't hear it when I tried to be a perfect student. I didn't hear it when I tried to get straight A's. I didn't hear it during COVID when I was at my lowest. I didn't hear it ever. Because you have to be the one to tell yourself it. School can guide you through whatever, and you can be guided through whatever. You can pursue whatever you want, but until you associate yourself with the positives, it gets really difficult for yourself. You just need to tell yourself that you're enough. And it's quite literally as simple as that, because once you change your perspective of yourself, you will start acting in ways that you didn't know you could act. I remember once I was talking to my friend, and he works with dementia patients. It's a really rough job, I would imagine. And he comes up to me one day, or I don't think he even came up to me. I really brought this up to him. I was like, what's it like working there? And to my surprise, he said, it's amazing what these people can do when they don't realize what they can't. It is amazing what these people can do when they don't realize what they can't. Life, to me, is perception. And how do you perceive yourself? How will you go about life? Will you perceive yourself as someone who can or someone who can't? And I think the thing with dementia, right, when it relates to that, is that people don't remember who they are anymore, so they're more willing to go do things that they forgot they couldn't do. Which is so interesting. To anyone who's suffering through dementia, I do not wish any of that on you or within your family, but I think it's a really interesting concept when it relates to enough, right? Enough is essentially a boundary, and it tells us you cannot do this. And if we see boundaries as things that we set, enough is perspective, and enough becomes a game of how do I perceive the concept of enough, not what does enough say about me. What does this 6-letter word do to my life? Or rather, what do I do to this 6-letter word? Right? And that's truly what I believe all of life to be. It's just this big game of challenging yourself to perceive things in different lights. You will forever notice the negatives. Forever, but we don't give ourselves enough grace to notice the positives. Once in a while, just once. I could give you a million compliments, someone could give you a million compliments, you could compliment me a million times, and if you told me I was ugly, that's the only thing I'm going to focus on. But what happened to the million other things? What happened to them? We see things through negative perspective. When you start seeing enough through negative perspective, that's all you will ever focus on. I challenge you to see enough as rather a manifestation of yourself, as rather I am enough and I do enough. And if you don't do enough and you truly know you don't do enough, you need to start putting in more. Or maybe define what enough means to you. Make enough tangible. Maybe you do smaller actions every day that make enough tangible so that you don't have to focus on the negatives every single time, and you can come to yourself at the end of the day and say, I am enough. And those are the 3 most powerful words I've told myself every single day. I am enough. Because once I detached myself from this really interesting concept, it became a lot more manageable. Because I told myself that it's perspective. I told myself that I can handle this. I believe sometimes that we also create prisons for ourselves because maybe it's more comfortable. Maybe enough to you is a boundary you don't even want to cross, because once I'm enough, what happens next? It's this big if-then game, or once I game, right? Once I achieve this, then what? If I achieve this, then what? Because what happens next? Maybe that's the scary thing. But you will never get anything out of life, I believe, if you don't do. Because we will forever think about the things we can't do. But some of us don't have the grace or the ambition to act on the things we think of. Which is completely fine. I'm not going to ask you to be proactive about everything, but I asked you to value your life and to value yourself. And if the actions at the end of the day don't allow you to look at yourself and tell yourself you're enough, you need to begin thinking, how do I make it happen for myself? Because the greatest gift that humans have is emotion, is connection, is feeling. And if you can feel at the bottom of your heart that you have value to yourself, nothing else matters. No one will remember me, no one will remember anyone by the time we're all gone. But if you can look at yourself at the final glimpses of your life, however that ends up, and you can say, I did enough, I was enough, and I am enough, I believe that is what life is. I think the game of life isn't to walk towards the finish line, but rather to walk in your own direction and allow the finish line to follow you. That's essentially what life is. There's 3 certainties in life: death, taxes, and change. And I'd like to argue that maybe the concept of enough might be the 4th. Maybe that's what the 4th really is allowing yourself to be enough and to say you did enough. Maybe it's just realization. And so to whoever needs to hear it, myself included, allow yourself to be enough, because enough can't be described by other people. It can only be achieved by what you believe. And so when you think to yourself, what does it mean enough? I urge you to put yourself in that conversation. And even if you don't inherently believe it, or you have some sort of doubt, just shove yourself in there anyway. Because eventually what's going to happen is enough will begin to mold to that vision of you, and you will consider yourself as enough. I don't believe that we need to live our entire lives struggling to try to love ourselves. We need to allow ourselves to be loved. And it sounds so much more complicated than it is. But it's really, how do you perceive yourself, and what perspective changes can you make in order to value yourself? Because we all have different stories. It's just, how do you choose to narrate it? Well, those are my weekly words. What are yours?